welcome back to another episode of Aligned and Thriving for Teachers. Now, today I want to have a really honest conversation with you about something that every single one of us, every human in the world wrestles with, and that's hope. Hope and hopelessness. Because both of these are real and both shape how you show up every single day. Well, we're going to talk about how hope isn't just a feeling, it's a practice, a choice, and why our emotional intelligence is our ability to understand and manage our emotions, and it's at the very heart of it. So let's dive in. I want to start by talking to you a little bit about your emotional intelligence and why it really matters. Now, when people talk about emotional intelligence, it can sound like one of those, really cool buzzwords that you hear. It gets thrown around in professional development. But look, here's the thing. It is actually a skill set that can change your relationships, your well-being, and your whole ability to hold on to hope when things get hard. There are 4 domains of emotional intelligence. There's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. These 4 areas all build on each other and they're all deeply connected to wherever we live in hope or slip into hopelessness. I'm going to start with the first one. So self-awareness. That's knowing what's really going on inside. It's the foundation. It's your ability to notice what you're feeling in that moment and understand where those emotions are coming from. Do you recognize your emotional triggers? Do you understand how emotions affect your decisions and actions? Do you know your strengths and areas where you tend to struggle? Self-awareness is your personal competence. It's what you know about yourself. Our emotions are only temporary. Did you know that? They're like signals, not facts, and yet they help to shape what we think, how we behave, and how we interpret what's actually happening around us. So, little teacher moment. Maybe a student rolls their eyes at you when you're teaching. Your immediate feeling might be irritation or frustration, or you're like, seriously, what have I done? But self-awareness is catching that thought. Wow, that pushed my button. Why? Why do I think that pushed my button? What story am I telling myself right now? That they don't respect me? That I'm not in control of my class? That they're bored? Oh my goodness. That pause right there, it gives you power. It gives you the power to respond instead of to react. So how do you strengthen your own self-awareness? You need to slow down and observe your emotions in real time. So like what I just said, when they're actually happening. You need to notice the physical sensations. Are you holding tension? Is your breathing getting shallow? Is your heart racing? Those types of physical sensations. You need to reflect. What's my self-talk right now? Is it helping or is it hurting? It's metacognition, thinking about your thinking, really. You need to cross-reference your emotions with your values and your strengths. And if you don't know your values and your strengths, now would be a really good time to go and do some deep diving into yourself and think about what your core values and beliefs are and make a list of them if you need to refer back to, and to think about your strengths, what you are good at, and even your weaknesses, because sometimes your weaknesses can be turned into strengths. So you need to have awareness of that and the connection to your emotions. You need to seek feedback. Now, when I say seek feedback, I mean ask trusted people, okay? Is this how I see myself? Well, this is how I see myself. So how do you see me? How do you see my reactions to XYZ? You need to challenge your unhelpful narratives. Now, this one's a hard one because it's like the story you're telling yourself in your head. Is this story actually true, or is this my fear talking or my prior experiences shaping my thinking? It's like that scenario with the students that's rolling their eyes. You might have been that person at high school and that was the cue that showed that you were bored and that you were trying to be disrespectful, but that might not be the same for that student, or it might be the same, but your reaction, you need to process how you're going to react to that. Now, It's a really good quote by Deepak Chopra, and they said, "Awareness is the birthplace of possibility. Everything you want to do, everything you want to be starts here." And just let that sink in. Like, awareness is the birthplace of possibility. Everything you want to do, everything you want to be, it starts there when you're being aware. So self-awareness opens up the door to change and to hope. Then we move into self-management. This is where we are responding instead of reacting. So the second pillar, self-management, the other half of your personal competence. Okay. So this is about what you do with the emotions that you have recognized. It's learning the strategies to help you regulate your impulses, handle stress, and choose behaviors that align with the person you want to be or you want to be known for. This is where self-care comes in, and doing all of those practices so you have the strategies in place that you know how to regulate your impulses and to de-stress, all of those things. Viktor Frankl, who is a Holocaust survivor and the author of Man's Search for Meaning, famously said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Now, that one line, well, I should say a couple of lines, really sums up self-management. No matter what happens around us, we always have a chance to pause, a moment where you get to choose your next move. And within that pause right there lives hope. He did all this research on how certain Holocaust survivors who may not have been fit and healthy like others were, how they survived and why he thinks, and look, there was scientific research behind it, but why they actually survived. And it's because they had hope. They believed that things were going to get better, they were going to get through this, and there was a life outside of that space. They had hope. And I know there is so much research around that with people who have sickness, that if you have the willpower, that most of the time you can will yourself out of things, and you need to have that hope and that faith belief that things are going to get better. And Nyla would just like to agree. She'd like to reinforce that that is very true. So how do you strengthen your self-management? What does that look like? Well, you could visualize how you want to respond in difficult situations. Take a bit of time to stop and focus and go, okay, if this happened, how would I react? And play it out in your head. You can practice responding rather than reacting. And gosh, if you're a parent, this is a big one. You really need to learn to take a breath. This is probably me teaching myself here, but take a breath before you start to respond, because otherwise you are just reacting straight in the moment. You need to take a pause. It's that little window of time that you've got before you have your response. You make your choice. You need to take responsibility for your feelings and actions. That's all on you. You control those. You need to celebrate your positive emotions, joy, gratitude, connection. Celebrate them, love them, bring them out more. Like, let's get a little bit more happy, people. And acknowledge your negative emotions, but don't let them take over. So yes, I'm feeling really guilty, and this is why, but I'm not going to dwell in it. Or yeah, I'm feeling a bit angry, frustrated, whatever it might be, but I'm not going to stay there. I'm going to go and get back into a high vibe. I'm going to do a few self-care things to get myself back to where I need to be. I'll give you an example. So imagine that you're running really late and you get to work and then the photocopier jams. Old you might mutter something very rude under your breath and storm into your class, frazzled and not prepared. Self-managed you hits pause, takes a deep breath, counts to 3, and decides, okay, that was annoying, but it doesn't have to ruin my day. Things will get better. Think of self-management like you're holding a remote control. You have a choice to pause, so take a breath, have a sip of water, take a step back. You could rewind, reflect on what happened and what you can learn from that situation. You could fast forward and imagine how you might want to respond next time and play that out. Or you could even turn off. So disconnect, recharge, and come back grounded. Oscar Wilde once said, I don't want to be at the mercy of my emotions. I want to use them, to enjoy them, and to dominate them. So self-management means not letting every emotion hijack your day. It's choosing hope over hopelessness in real time. Okay, next section. Social awareness. This is the feeling with others part. Moving on to the more social side of our emotional intelligence, social awareness is your capacity for empathy. It's what we're really good at in the teacher educator space. It's truly seeing and understanding what someone else is experiencing. It's reading the emotional tone of a room, recognizing how your behavior impacts others, and being mindful of what we would like to say your emotional wake, the ripple that your emotions leave behind as you're charging forward. Give you an example. Just imagine you're walking into the staff room. You can feel the tension before anyone speaks. Social awareness allows you to pick up on all of that and adjust your approach. It is not sympathy, it's empathy. It is seeing people as they are, not as we expect them to be. So it's reading the room and seeing what people need and trying not to feed into the toxic energy that might already be in that space. If you can't remember much about toxic energy, flip on back to one of my other episodes where I talk more on that topic. But social awareness is that feeling with others, sharing it all, but not dwelling in it again. Then you've got relationship management. That's about building trust and connection. So, relationship management is where your emotional intelligence becomes relational. It's about using your awareness and empathy to build trust, repair relationships, and communicate in ways that strengthen connection. It means giving and receiving feedback graciously, not getting angry and upset when people are just trying to give you the support. Rewriting some of your narratives about others when it's necessary to do so. You might have painted a really different picture of someone in your head by the way they talk to you or respond to you or the way they look at you. I know I'm guilty of that. I've done that before with some people thinking, wow, and excuse my language, but they have a really good resting bee face. They must really not like me because every time I talk to them, they just look like that. But then you actually start to get to know them and realize they just that's their harsh exterior. They're actually a really nice person. They're just either really shy or they don't know how to talk to you because they think that you're something else. So both of your perceptions were really off. So you've got to get past that. So try not to think too much about the narrative you're creating of someone else before you even know them. You need to choose your words and your actions that foster hope and safety in our relationships. It's what our kids need too. Hope is contagious. When you're modeling how to be a hopeful human, it gives permission for other people to do the same. So it's that whole, I want to jump back to the hope versus hopelessness, the lessons from Viktor Frankl. I've talked about him just earlier, but I talked about how he observed that profound thing during the Holocaust, that people who maintained their hope, even in those horrific conditions, survived even when the physically stronger people did not. It wasn't a passive feeling, it was an intentional choice. They had the belief that this isn't the end of my story. Hopelessness, on the other hand, it closes every door. It like slams it in your face. It says, there is all there is and nothing's going to change. And it drains us of all of our energy too. Because we don't have the energy to try to open those doors again. You just have the hopelessness and it's just all gone. So, what are some practical ways that we can choose hope? How do we intentionally cultivate it? Well, start by monitoring your self-talk. Ask yourself, is the story I'm telling myself fueling hope or hopelessness? Rewrite those unhelpful narratives, like I just touched on. Rewrite those images, I should say. Number 2, pause before you react. And that is a big one. You've got to remember between the trigger and response, you always have a choice. So try and make a choice filled with hope. Number 3, practice gratitude. Gratitude is an absolute magnet for hope. Reflect, I couldn't talk, daily on what's working. What have you overcome? And what is still possible? You have hope. You have things that you can be grateful for every single day. Even if it is just running water and electricity, that is something. Okay? So pick something, be grateful, choose hope. Number 4, forgive and release. If you haven't heard of the Hawaiian practice of, I think I'm trying to say this right, but it's like hopo'ono. I don't know. You'd have to Google it. I can't say it properly, but it's basically like a forgiveness prayer. So I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you. But you write some more information in that space. So, like, I'm sorry for XYZ. Please forgive me for, and thank you for all the things you've done. And I love you. And you're basically giving just peace and releasing all of that out into the universe, which means that forgiveness can then free up all that mental and emotional energy that we need to have hope. Number 5, build yourself a self-care bank. We should know this by now. I've given you lots of ideas on how to deal with your self-care. There's a whole series on that. This is part of it. Looking after you, sleep, movement, nature, meditation, time with the people who lift up your vibe. All of these build resilience. When your reserves are low, hope's harder to hold on to, and you start dwelling in that hopelessness space. So why not build your self-care bank, do some self-care strategies, and you will start getting that hope back and start cultivating hope. Because hope matters, people. Hope doesn't ignore reality. It acknowledges the present whilst we still believe in a better future. It's not wishful thinking. It is intentional. It is an active choice to believe that things can get better. Things can improve. And here's the thing. Hope is social. It spreads. It's just like a smile. If you smile at someone, then they smile and they might smile at someone else, and you've passed it around everywhere. Hope is the same. If you start turning up every day at work as the hopeful human, it'll start rubbing off on other people, and all that negative talk will start dwindling down because you will start to hear a more hopeful, grateful type of language in your, whether it's your staff room or in your classroom space. Is when you choose hope, you change the whole emotional tone of your classroom, your family, your community. Hope changes everything. So, I want you to do a little bit of time on reflecting. So, some questions for you. If you have a journal and you want to journal, these would be great to journal on, but otherwise just have a think and keep them in the back of your mind. Okay. What narrative are you living in right now? Does it support hope or hopelessness? When was the last time you hit pause before reacting? How do you know, or how do your emotions affect the people around you? What do you think your emotional wake sort of is, if that makes sense? And what is one small step that you can take today to nurture hope in yourself and others? I know you can't always control what happens to you, the same as I can't control my dog. I love her dearly. She's just run back in. I now have the equivalent to about 6 toys behind me. Yep. Sorry, off topic. But you love a good Nyla story. She just pops in. So she's saying hi. She's very hopeful. She's hopeful that mummy has more treats, but I don't. Sorry. But yeah, we can always control the story that we tell, okay? We can't always control what happens to us, but we can control the story we tell ourselves about that. So today, just pause, breathe, choose hope, because it's not just for you. It is for everyone that your life touches. So thank you guys for listening to another episode of Aligned and Thriving for Teachers. And if this has resonated with you, please share it with a friend who just needs a reminder that hope is still alive. Follow me on Instagram or Facebook for some more pep talks. DM me. Tell me, what are you hopeful for today? Well, clearly my dog is hopeful that she doesn't choke on the treat that she's just attempted to eat whole. I'm sorry about that. But I'm finishing on that note. What are you hopeful for today? Tell me about it. Share about it. I would love to know. But until next time, I hope that you stay aligned and thriving and spread a bit of hope in the world. So I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.